welcome everybody to this week's edition of Hassel's Review. And we get back this week to our roots. We're getting back to movie reviews with not one, not two, but three. We had a triple feature, and it's a little easier to watch than it is to say, apparently. So, this week, I'm going to give you my review of Apple TV's Tetris, of Paramount Plus's Smile, and Peacock TV's Knock at the Cabin. So if you like your boy Hassel, before you watch a movie, you kind of want some sneaky snacks there. I mean, you got to have your little beer, you got to have your whiskey, or your soda if you're a soda person, and some little snacks to go with it. So a little shout out to Walmart, who has done the inevitable and done bootleg versions of Snickers, Kit Kat, and Twix. Now, the Twix, I will say something is a little off. It's a little amiss. It's not bad. However, it's not Twix consistency taste. I don't know what. The flavor's a little off. Well, let's put it this way. But they come in packs with 6 bars for $3. Okay. If you buy a Snickers, it's $1.89. You know what I'm saying? Almost $2. So you get 6 Snickers, 6 Twix, Kit Kats for $3. Hey, who's complaining? I will commend them, however, on the Snickers. I don't know what you want to call it. If the Twix is Wix, I don't know what you want to call the Snickers, but hey, I will commend them on that one there. They knocked it out of the park on that one there. The only drawback was it was a little light on the peanuts, but it had a good nougat to caramel ratio. The chocolate tasted fine. Like I said, it needed a few more peanuts, a little heavier on the nuts, so to speak, these nuts. But, yeah, it was pretty damn good and pretty tasty. And for $3, I highly recommend it. I got to try the Kit Kat next. I have yet to do so, so that is next on my agenda. So if you're going, because, you know, when you watch a movie, you need snacks. I mean, most people popcorners, chips, what the fuck ever. I'm a candy person, so that's just what it is. So first off, we're going to start with Apple TV's Tetris. So I've seen the preview for this movie for some coming attraction type thing for some while. And I really didn't want to get another streaming service. And however, the Braves were playing on Apple TV. They had a free 7-day trial. So I said, fuck it. I'll go in for it. Your boy Hassel loves to watch the Braves, and I can hardly ever watch it because I don't have Bally. And Bally is blacked out for our area anyways for the Braves. So I done it. So Tetris is just that. It is a story of the development of the game of Tetris, the game that encapsulated the country by storm in the late 80s, and now it's destroying shitters everywhere with being on your cell phone. So, there's an American game producer, or developer, that's probably more the line, American game developer who is stationed in Japan, and he is none other than Taron Egerton. I'm trying not to butcher that, but it's quite the odd name. You know him from Kingsman fame. He's been in a few other things, but this is a Marv production, just like Kingsman, you know, and some other of the associated Marvel movies. So he is the American developer who is trying to get his hands on Tetris, but he doesn't know it yet. He starts out, he's got a studio with his wife. They live in Japan, and their family, and they're bulletproof studios. Well, they got some shit game that he's put out, and you get the vibe real early on. He's kind of like a snake oil car salesman type guy who tries to sell you anything and has had a lot of failure. So he's at a game show, and he's trying to showcase his game that's trash. He hires this beautiful young game assistant, and she's MIA. She's not there to sell his game like she's supposed to be. He looks, and she's around the corner playing a game. So he's like, hey, could you get your ass back over here? You know, I paid you to sell my game, not go look hot next to their game. Well, he goes over there and she talks him into trying a game. It's Tetris. Well, the company that guy worked for, that she was playing the game with, is Microsoft, and it was apparently a multi-billion-dollar company back in the day that wound up being crooks, but you don't know this yet. He was subsidized through them, and they had somehow acquired the computer rights and the computer and arcade rights to Tetris for the states and stuff like that. So he acquires or goes about acquiring the arcade and console rights in Japan. So he takes the game to NES in Japan, and he scams his way into a meeting with the head. The guy likes him. He loves the game. And initially they start going from there. And the next thing you know, he's on a plane to San Francisco to NES America, to where they show him Game Boy. And at the time he has to sign an NDA because only 10 other people had seen the fucking thing. I mean, it was top secret. No one knew about it. And they were going to put Mario with it. Well, Mario looked pretty crappy on it. So he said, hey, let me try this right here. And he kind of hacks their system, and they run Tetris through it. It looks fucking great. And they're like falling in love with the game. And the game's not even really the version we have, or we initially knew at the time, because it's like they do some tweaking later. But anyways, so they're like, hey, if you can secure the rights of this for other states, we'll take it. We'll put it with Game Boy. It'll come in a package. So the only thing he knows how to do is he goes and embarks to Russia. Well, this is very late 80s communist Russia. And for you youngsters out there that don't know what the fuck communism is really like and how blessed we are for the liberties that we all unfortunately take for granted, watch this movie for that, if nothing else. Basically, it didn't matter. You didn't make money. You were awarded a station in life by what you've done for your country. So the more you done for your country, the better your station in life was, but it still only got so good. And they always had their hands in him because it's crooks and the KGB and all this shit. So he goes there and he's saddled up with this chick as supposed to be his interpreter. And they go to the company that actually has the rights, because he's not allowed initially to talk to the guy that created the game. Well, the KGB gets wind of it because, American just showing up in fucking Russia. Hey, this is noticeable. We're on top of our shit here. Unlike the States where people just come in and out and we don't fucking know who the hell they are. The Russians, they did. And their shitty way of doing it. So he goes and tries to secure rights, and then this is where it starts going from there. Or it's a 2-hour cat and mouse. It's nonstop. It's super great. It's one of those movies that, while it's 2 hours long, you don't realize it's 2 hours long because it's just so fucking good. It's really, really good. Amazing soundtrack. It's fucking 80s. Come on, you hit that Europe with the final countdown. They do that. We need a hero, but they do it in Russian. I was pretty happy about that. That was pretty cool. Get a lot of 8-bit graphics here and there. It's just a great movie. The character development. And along the way, he realizes Russia kind of got scammed out of what rights they did have, because they only sold what they thought was computer rights. They never sold arcade rights, and the Microsoft was scamming them on what was actually technically computer rights with consoles. So then it becomes who's going to get it between Microsoft and him and Nintendo. They're butting heads. People are turning on one another left and right. He finally gets to meet the actual Alexei, the guy that created the game. And you come to find out that the Russian KGB hated this guy because of the fact that apparently something really shady happened with his dad. They never really tell you what. But you get the vibe that the KGB killed him for some reason. He seems to be a sweetheart of a fellow, though. He's apprehensive of trusting him because he's a fucking American, of course. However, they develop a relationship and a bond. And, the KGB's pissed at him because they're like, you're typically the guy that brought our country down because our fucking agents were playing Tetris instead of doing their job. So it was actually banned from any government computer. Very few computers were allowed to play Tetris in Russia at the time. And he used like colons. It wasn't even actually blocks. The way he done it, it was just like, code basically. And, he goes to the guy's house. They have dinner. The guy's apprehensive to let him come in, and he tells a story, and they both realize they're a lot more alike than they're different. God forbid, people of different origins and backgrounds be far more common than we all envision. So you got your feel good right there with that right there. So they're discussing the game, and he's like, well, hey, why don't the lines disappear? Because at the time, the lines didn't even disappear. You only got one line at a time instead of, as we know today, many lines will disappear when you block it up. And he's like, well, I just never thought of that. Oh, so they partnered up. Write it in a code, they play with it. That's pretty cool. Then they go to a club. You got a pretty fun scene there where they're in the club hitting it up in Russia. Swicker monster for the working man. So Then it starts being a car chase. The KGB gets after him. The interpreter tries to come on to him, wants to get back to the hotel room because everybody's telling him, get the fuck out of Russia, get the fuck out of Russia. Go before you can't go. You know, he gets beat the fuck up a couple times. The translator comes on to him, smacks a little smooch on him. Well, he's like, look, I'm married, can't do this. Honorable fella. You know, even though he's a car salesman, he's an honorable fella. He goes home. When he gets home, he pretty much gets a blackmail fax in because it's the days of fax machines. You know, we don't have emails and all this shit back then. So there's a fax there of him and her kissing. Come to find out, she's actually a KGB agent as well. She's a dirty bitch. Commie Russian bitch. But anyways, so he goes back to Russia against the betterment. He thinks he's lost everything. If he doesn't get this, he does lose his house. He loses everything. He mortgaged up everything for $3 million for the assets to acquire this. So he goes over there and he gets back with Alexei, and he tries, and Alexei's like, look, I can't trust you. You're a piece of shit. I'm not going to benefit from this. They're going to get rich. I'm not going to get rich. I'm not going to get nothing. And he promised him, no, we're going to make this right. We're going to make this right. We're going to make this right. And it's a bigger cat and mouse, and who's going to actually get it? I will say, apparently I ruined the movie for my wife because she was like, I sure hope this guy gets this game, you know, after all he's went through. And I'm like, baby, you realize this was packaged with Game Boy, right? But God bless her. She's a 90s baby, you know, so. Anyways, so I ruined the movie for her, apparently, because I told her some history. The cat and mouse goes back and forth, and it's like, wow, how is he going to go? You know, because you know the whole movie's going to get it, but you're just like, how? And it's a really great how. You get some redemption for a few characters without giving them too much away. And then in the movie, he secures the game, gets back to America, and he gets Alexei over to America as well, because, you know, opens a box, and there's a Game Boy there, which in itself would be enough to make him go, oh, right. But, you know, there's some tickets out of Mother Russia for him. So it's a very good movie. I give it 4.5 out of 5 Hassels. Solid movie. Moving on next, I went into Paramount Plus's Smile. So I seen this movie when it was initially coming out in theaters and whatnot. I was, a little apprehensive of watching it. I was like, I don't know. I'll wait till it comes on streaming. Well, it's on Paramount Plus, and I have all the streaming platforms on my fudgely, so it's free on there. So I was like, you know what? I got some time to kill. Let's watch it. So I turn it on, and I go into it with low expectations, you know, because I've seen a few things in the, you know, previews that look creepy and cool, but it's like, is it really going to be good? And initially, it starts out with this chick. You see at the very beginning of the movie, her mother commits suicide in front of her. She grows up to be a shrink. She's working in a mental hospital or a state hospital type deal. And her boss is actually Kumar. He's one of the only name brand actors in the movie. The guy who played Kumar in Harold and Kumar. And it's really hard to take him seriously in a serious role. And it's not comedic. But he does a pretty good job at it. The only other name brand actor, I guess, was the kid, one of the final kids from the Nightmare on Elm Street reboot. The guy. I forget his name from the movie, but he is a detective that apparently is a former love interest of the main girls. So she's in her office one day, and she's, you know, doing her thing. Young lady comes in, and she's visibly distraught. She's all down, and she's telling her about all the stuff that's been going on. She's hearing voices. She's seeing things. She's witnessed things that she shouldn't have, you know, had to see and endure. And this voice keeps telling her she's going to die. And she's like trying to diagnose her and help her. Well, just out of nowhere, she gets this grin on her face. Man, it's the grin you see from the movies. Slits her throat. Pretty damn brutal, too. It was like, whoo, shit. Right in front of this young lady. So, this kind of sends her into, you know, she gets a little PTSD after that. I mean, that would fuck you up, I imagine. So they tell her to take a week off. Because, you know, then she starts exhibiting the voice. She starts hearing things and seeing things, and things are happening. And actually, her love interest initially is the dude that plays A-Train and The Boys. So you got another name brand actor there. But this chick here, I've never seen her in anything else. And to be honest with you, She does an amazing job in the movie, and she does a really great job at playing schizophrenic and crazy and all this shit. Like someone that was actually seeing and witnessing this stuff. But she's got this little mole right here, and I know I'm going to sound like a dick when I say this, but I just found myself staring at this mole way too much. I don't know. I'm that asshole. Anyways, so she starts exhibiting these things. And she has a cat called Mr. Mustache. It vanishes. What happened to the cat, you know? Well, she wasn't originally going to make her nephew's birthday party because of work. She doesn't have to work no more, so she shows up to the birthday party. She had bought him a model train. She's all excited when she gives him the gift, you know, like, hey, you know, everybody's at this big birthday party. She's all excited about this. He opens it, and you see this look on her face, and she's smiling. She's thinking, oh, I got the best gift ever. No, it's a dead fucking cat. Yeah, Mr. Mustache met his end. Number 2. Well, she freaks the fuck out, wigs out. She falls to a glass table, cuts herself to fucking ribbons. She's a mess. She's trying to convince people she's not crazy and that she didn't do this to torment her young nephew. Family pretty much is like, because, you know, apparently the sister knows about her watching her mother commit suicide and the things, because her mother apparently had an overdose, was the story. So she gets with the detective guy because the boyfriend's pretty much like, she's fucking crazy. I'm not, and he had checked into it in this kind of douchebaggy way. So he ditches her. She goes to the detective's house. She asks him to check into some things about that girl. Well, come to find out, a few days prior to the girl killing herself, she had witnessed a suicide as well. Somebody she had come across by happenstance, smiling his ass off. There's videos where this guy is smiling and kills himself in front of her. So it's like, oh, what's going on here? Well, they keep investigating. They come across this other guy, because before they get that guy's records, they find that before that, there was another guy. And apparently this guy was a little bit of an artist, and he had like sketched out like what he was visioning, which shows the actual monster. So there is an actual entity and there is an actual monster, and you do see it. And the sketch is like, oh, it's kind of crude. It's like, you know, pictures of a just dark beast with a bunch of smiles and 2 eyes, you know, pretty crude. Well, she's talking to the lady. She's convinced this lady she's a therapist. Or not therapist, I'm sorry, a reporter. She's asking about this stuff. And then, you know, the woman's finally like, what kind of reporter are you? And she said, what if your husband wasn't crazy? You know, what if I'm seeing this stuff too? So this woman flips the fuck out. Get the fuck out of my house. Hit the bricks, bitch. You know, because like most normal people would. And she thinks she's just tormenting her. Well, they keep envisioning things, and, you know, the movie keeps going, and, you know, they do more digging and whatnot, and she has she witnesses some things here or there, so that they give you some stuff, enough here or there to kind of keep you creeped out, and things like this vision she's seeing. It makes her think she's going fucking crazy. Well, they found out that basically it's a cycle. You know, someone commits suicide in front of another person. The entity passes to the person that witnessed it, and it continues the cycle. No one has lived beyond 4 to 7 days. That's typically the cycle, the way it works. Well, then they find out that one person had broke the cycle. There's a guy that he had killed someone in front of another person. So instead of killing himself, he killed someone else. And the entity passed to the person he killed in front of. Or the person that witnessed it. But so, you know what happens with him. I mean, he killed somebody in front of some fucking body. This motherfucker's in jail. So they go to the jail, and they go to talk to him, and they don't tell him who they are. They just tell him that, you know, hey, we're here to ask about your case. He's like, well, I done told him every fucking thing. I'm guilty. I done it. I killed the guy. And she's like, no, I want to know about why. What did you see? Tell me what you saw. And he starts opening up to her and telling her and saying, look, there's, because she tells him that she's the psychiatrist, and her patient is going through this. And he's like, look, tell her the only way out is to find the biggest weapon she can find, brutally murder someone in front of someone, and then the entity will leave her and go to the other person. And that is fucked up, and as fucked up as it is the only way to do it. And then she continues to talk and pretty much lets the cat out of the bag that she is the person. He loses his shit. He is terrified that she's going to pass this demon back off to him. So he's like, get the fuck out of here, bitch. Go. He freaks out. She leaves. Well, she has it in her mind then because she goes to the hospital and contemplates killing one of her patients and almost gets caught by Kumar. She has to haul ass and leave. And then she gets the bright idea, I'm just going to leave and seclude myself. And if I seclude myself, I can't do nothing. It can't pass to anyone else. So she goes to this rundown meth house that is her childhood home. So she goes in there and she starts having visions of her mother and come to find out that her mother had overdosed, but she wasn't dead and she had asked for help. Like, look, mommy made a mistake. Call someone. And she just shut the door and let the bitch die. So the entity kind of takes the form of her mother, OD'd out, and then she grows to this really creepy size, and like they have this battle, and the house sets fire. So she gets out of there, and she thinks that because she set fire to the house, it burns down, all this shit, that she's good. Well, next thing you know, the boyfriend shows up, and she's like, what the fuck? And she looks back, and the house isn't burned down. So then they go inside and they go to begin to battle the entity. It's the final stage now at this point. They go to battle the entity or whatever, and it's still in the form of her mother and peels all of its skin off. And this is where it kind of looks a little, because this is basically like a skinless monster with multiple smiles running up his face with two big fucking eyes. They could have done a little better. Because all in all, the movie's pretty stellar other than what the entity looked like to me. I thought they could have done a better job. It's original, but So long story short, basically the entity enters inside of her. And at that point, game over. She kills herself. She pours kerosene all over herself with a smile all over her face, and she sets herself on fire in front of the detective. And you see the movie ends with, the burning vision of her inside of his eye. Passed to him. Repeat cycle of the next 4 days. So there's room for a sequel. But that's a pretty decent movie. I'd give it about a 3.5 stars. So it's not bad. I mean, it's enjoyable. It's a good way to burn time. I mean, would I watch it 3 or 4 times? Probably not. It doesn't have that kind of power. But it's worth watching if you haven't seen it. Lastly is Peacock TV's Knock at the Cabin. So this is M. Night Shyamalan. They're a little hit and miss usually. This one wound up being a lot better than I thought it would be. Dave Bautista done an incredible job of being sympathetic. Maybe his years of being a pro wrestler paid off because he's very sympathetic and soft-spoken. He don't just play the moron this time like he does, like in Guardians of the Galaxy. He does, because he does a great job of that. Like in Guardians of the Galaxy, Glass Onion, he's even great in that. Is this lovable doofus. But in this right here, he's like this just sympathetic guy. So, of course, the couple in it is two dudes because it's, 2023 and we got to be fucking woke and all this grand shit. But these two, homosexual gentlemen, they have a young daughter that they adopted. They go to the cabin in the woods. And, apparently they've suffered some trauma. I'm not sure. I've never seen the two guys in anything. The one guy looks just like fucking Tony Romo to me, and that's kind of what I called him the whole movie was Tony Romo. So, they go to the cabin in the woods, and they're living it up, having a good time. Well, Batista shows up. She's out catching grasshoppers. And he shows up, and he befriends her. He's very soft-spoken, nice, and he tells her, look, we have to do something, and I need you to let your parents know that, this is very important. They have to make a decision. Well, by that time, 3 more people show up. And the only other one of them that I recognized was the redheaded Potter kid from the Harry Potter movies. He's not Potter, but he's from the Potter movies. Anyways, he's one of them. And apparently, they basically, by the end of the movie, you realize these are the 4 horsemen. They all represent a different death and plague. Well, they try to get in the house, and they're like, initially they knock on the door. It's like, hey, will you let us in? We have something to really discuss. And the girls, they got scared. It's spooked at this point. So she's told her daddies no. Well, the dudes are kind of convinced that they're homophobes. And they're there just to fucking torture and whatever. So they finally bust their way in the house. And the one guy falls and knocks his head, gets concussion. And so the one lady, she's a nurse. So she's like, let me help you. She said, I really do want to help you. We're not here to harm you. We need you to make a decision. And that's what they explained to him. Look, we need you to make a decision. You have to sacrifice one of you. It has to be willingly, and you cannot commit suicide. For every no, we'll release a plague upon mankind. Millions of people will die. Well, they tried to give a little backstory. Well, instantly, Tony Romo recognizes the Potter kid as one of the assholes that jumped him in a bar in Boston once upon a time. And, the guy's trying to say, fuck you, I'm not that guy, blah, 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 blah. And initially, it does wind up being this way. Well, they all have a different reason for being there. They started seeing visions, at some point, and the visions become more real, more realistic. They were all different walks of life. They didn't know each other. But they found each other. They come together and they knew what they had to do, and they had all fashioned their own weapon. So each of them has a different weapon that they fashioned themselves. Thus, the four horsemen. Well, Potter kid's up front first. He asked him. He knows you're going to say no. And then Tony Romo's like, fuck you. Fuck you. Y'all can either kill yourself. I don't give a fuck. And Batista tells him, look, every time he tells no, we release a plague. And if we get to the end of the 4 plagues, everyone in existence will die but you 3. You 3 will be cursed to walk a lifeless earth. And Tony Romo's like, fuck you. I'll take my family in the day of the week. The 3 of us will survive. Fuck all y'all. Well, when they go to kill the Potter kid, he's like literally puts a mask on, and he's like, humanity has been judged, and he kills himself. And they whack him, drag him off, and that's when the tsunami hits. He turns the TV on, shows the live feed, and it's a tsunami. Well, Tony Romo's like, bullshit, you planned this, you staged this, y'all are a bunch of homophobes. That was probably yesterday's news. How did you fucking know there's no cell service out here? So that's got to be an old feed, and you're fucking with us. Well, the pattern continues. It keeps doing this way. And the one lady, because one lady's a nurse. The other lady, she's like, I'm a cook. I take care of people. I got a small son. This is why I'm doing this. And they all have a different reason for doing it, other than seeing the visions that's driving them insane. And like Batista, he is a second grade teacher. He coaches basketball. Just apparently a great fucking dude. You know what I'm saying? So, and he's like, I envisioned my team killing themselves. And he shows a picture to him. He's like, this is my basketball team. He said, we went 2-9 this season, so we're not very good. But, the smiles on their face made it worth it. They smiled and laughed and enjoyed. So you really get sympathetic toward him. Like, damn, this is kind of fucked up. You're feeling for this guy. And the lady that's cooking him breakfast, she's telling him all about her son and how she likes to cook for him. And she's a chef, so she cooks for other people. So she's up next. So they're like, you have a decision. Nope. She gets killed. And then it's like the one guy starts feeling bad, and he's like, she had a son, and Tony Romo's like, no shit, how do we fucking know they're a bunch of homophobes? They stage this shit. Well, by the time they turn the TV on, and it's kind of like when COVID hit, you turn the TV on, and it was like, how many died today? How many died today? Except for it's a much larger scale. Millions and millions are dying of this virus that's going along, the plague. Well, finally it gets to the nurse's turn. Well, Tony Romo finds a way and he escapes. He gets out to the truck, and him and her kind of have a back and forth, and the whole time he's trying to get to his gun. Well, he gets his gun, and he shoots at her, and she runs off through the fucking woods. Well, they get back inside, and then somehow or another, they get him back inside as well. Well, she gets winged along the way, and she's like, she knows she's dying at this point. So Batista just goes ahead. Another plague is released. About this time, you start seeing fucking planes just dropping out of the sky. It's terrible. Thunder and lightning, you're hearing it all. And Batista's like, look, there's not much time now. Well, they have a battle back and forth, and he gets maimed up a little bit to the point to where he finally sits down in a chair. And he tells him, look, I'm finna release the last plague. You have the choice to make. You only have a few minutes after I release this plague, and that you won't have no more time. Well, Tony Romo tells him, fuck you again. kills himself. Done. Final plague is released, and the clouds get dark. You see, it's like, oh shit, these motherfuckers are for real. This ain't some bullshit. So the two husbands, they start conversing with one another, and Tony Romo's like, fuck it, as long as we got each other, we don't care. We'll walk the earth together. We'll be kung fu. Well, the other guys, more sympathetic, said, no, I had a vision as well. And they were like, no, you got a concussion. He said, no, I had a vision. I envisioned me sacrificing myself and you and our daughter growing old. Our daughter becomes a successful lawyer, I believe it was. You and her going out to dinner. I mean, it's just a really like heart-touching father-daughter. Like, oh man, and you get the visual of it. So he tells him he's okay. Well, the little girl goes outside, and then finally you hear a gunshot. Well, Tony Romo and the little girl, they make a trek down the road, and they find the car, the truck of the killers. And they get in there, and of course the Potter kids' ID is up there, and it is the asshole that jumped him, the homophobe that jumped him. So you really never know if he's just there because he had to atone for that or what, but it is what it is. Well, things are still looking pretty grim. They drive to this diner, they get to the diner, and there's a shit ton of people there because it's like the end of the world, so people are going to congregate together where you can, you know. And they're in there, and the news is on, and then finally it's like, they start talking to someone at the tsunami site, and it's like, the waves were sighted, and we found these survivors here, you found survivors there, and it's like, oh, shit. And then it's like, you know, to another report, and like the planes have finally quit falling, you know, the EMP that caused it, they don't know what caused it, but it subsided and got service back and all this shit, and then you have a visual of a hospital, and the nurse out there is like, well, we hadn't had a death in 2 days now. That's really good news. It's good signs. So you realize their sacrifice really did stop the end of the world. So you get the vibe at this point that maybe families were occasionally sacrificed by the Four Horsemen at various times who inhibited different people to save humanity. I don't know. It's a pretty solid movie. I enjoyed it. The gore factor is not really there like it is in Smile. Smile has a lot of gore. While this has a lot of death and you see a lot of blood, it does cutaways kind of. Like they'll do something and it kind of pan off and you'll see someone's face. They do a good job of that because the way the cinematography is, you don't really miss the violence, so to speak. So it's pretty damn good. I give it a good 4 Hassels out of 5. So that's our movie reviews for this week, our triple feature, so to speak. Let's show a little love to our sponsor, the Zone Collectibles of Tifton, Georgia, 305 Main Street. Go visit them for all your nerdy needs where they do unity through community. Phantoms unite. If you need something, if you want something, they got it or we'll get it, I promise you. Also, while you're on the verge of checking some things out, check out my other show that I do with my boy Monster, the Nerdy Man Room Show. This is on their channel. We're on Roku. We're on Southern Joy Media. We're on YouTube. We were just in Canada doing some shows on the toy sector. So we're all over the place. Even though Monster, God bless him, he rules Cobra organization with an iron fist. In his spare time, I'll put up a graphic of him in his Cobra attire and show you his before and after because sometimes he doubles as Destro, sometimes he doubles as Cobra Commander. Either way, he has the globe in the palm of his hand. He's truly always on the go for business, but we still find a time to do a show. This week, we are doing the 30th anniversary of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and we're hoping that the new show drops tomorrow. We'll have time to review it before we record Thursday, so hey, there's that. So, watch us. We're pretty damn interesting and funny. Also, if you hang around on the Roku channel, this is Hassel's Review featuring Big Rob's House of Entertainment and no Chinese food. And if you're not watching on the Roku channel, go to his fucking channel on YouTube. He's on there too. He's a very entertaining fella. You'll love him. You can't help but love Big Rob. So with that being said, don't answer the fucking door if someone knocks on your cabin.